I have seen the outrage among Becky Lynch fans in this video. I'm going to tell you exactly why they're so upset and why they have every right to be upset. And as a Becky Lynch fan myself, well, I can concur. I can agree with and I can feel the pain. Now look, the expectation heading into the premiere episode of WWE on Netflix premiere in LA this week was that Becky Lynch would return. The only problem is it didn't. Now this comes after she had been off of television since May of 2024, losing the women's championship to Liv Morgan. Now, a previous report came out on Tuesday afternoon stating that there were return plans for Becky Lynch, but they were scrapped, right? Because originally this report claimed that she was originally slated to be involved following the Rhea Ripley Liv Morgan Women's World Championship match on Raw on Netflix. And that report noted that the plan was nixed. Instead of that happening, well, they went with The Undertaker coming out, riding his motorcycle, and having a moment with Rhea Ripley in which he posed with her, right? And people were like, okay, PW Insider, they had previously reported, well, WWE and Becky Lynch, they're in talks for a new contract, and she's expected to be back on television before Raw on Netflix debut January 6th. And okay, well, we've heard that WWE didn't want to do all of these angles and all of these returns on one show. They wanted to piece it out. They wanted to save something for next week as they embark on their new era. But still, all right. And then Fightful Report comes out and reports something very, very interesting. And fans, when they're dealing with all this, they're starting to get a little bit more angry, right? Because now their emotions are going all over the place, right? Because for the longest time, for months now, they have been reading these reports. Becky Lynch is returning to WWE, and she's going to do so by Raw on Netflix. Well, let's be real. Everyone, including myself, thought they're going to have her return Raw on Netflix. It's the biggest show of the year. It's the biggest episode of Monday Night Raw in years. They're going to do that, right? Of course they're going to do that. And she doesn't show up. Well, why doesn't she show up? Well, Fightful Select reports, hey, y'all, Becky Lynch was not planned for this show, nor was she in LA for this show. And it was said that Lynch had told people that she was just supporting WWE while making appearances at WWE-related Netflix events. She does plan on returning to WWE TV. She is under contract with WWE yet again. But she wasn't on the Raw on Netflix. And people, now they're really angry. Because they had an anticipation for months. Becky Lynch going to be on that show. Then she wasn't. And that infuriated people. And now we know that Becky Lynch, she was never planned for this show, nor was she in LA for this show. Why was she involved in Raw on Netflix commercials? Why were there hints and little Easter eggs planted? Why were there reports that she was coming back on this show? Yeah, as a Becky Lynch fan myself, come Monday night, that show goes off the air. CM Punk goes over Seth Rollins in the main event. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, they really blew it. They blew it because you had an opportunity. You had the perfect opportunity, in my opinion, for a Becky Lynch return. I previously talked about this. I think the fact is WWE had the perfect opportunity for a Becky Lynch return and absolutely just wet the bed. They absolutely missed the mark. I proposed you only had one women's match on the freaking show. It was Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, right? So, why don't you just simply have Becky Lynch make her big return to WWE TV after their match? Why don't you just have her come out there and either screw over Liv, who she dropped the women's championship to prior, setting up a feud between Liv and Becky Lynch, in which Becky would probably win that feud. Or you could have Becky come out there, confront Rhea, setting the scene for it. Instead, we got a 1-minute Undertaker segment where he rode around and raised his arm. And oh, by the way, looked at the camera. That's all we got. Now, I appreciate the fact that WWE wanted to endorse Rhea Ripley, right? But if we're talking about, okay, here's a sheet of paper. On one side, we have the Undertaker idea, right? It's a good one. It gets Rhea over a little bit more, even though she's basically a megastar at this point. And then on the other side, we have my idea, which is you just have Becky confront Rhea. Well, I'm going to go with her confronting Rhea. Now, I would say this, if I had my dream scenario, my fantasy, if I'm pulling a Tony Khan here, I would say, okay, we're not going to do the Undertaker idea because, yeah, it's nice to see Undertaker, but I like these other two options better. Okay, then okay, you put that to a side. Now you have a sheet of paper and you go, okay, we can have Becky return in the middle of the match, her making the save for Rhea, her fighting off, dominant. She lays him out, she lays out Raquel, and then she screws over Liv, and Rhea wins the title like that, and it sets the scene for Liv versus Becky. All right, I like that. I really like that. Or just have her come out there and confront Becky afterwards, just have a simple stare down, right? And Rhea just raise the championship and call it a day. If I'm weighing those two options, if I have those two options in front of me and I have to make a decision, I'm going to go with Liv. And I understand that while, yes, it may look like Rhea is a little bit more weak because she had to have outside interference as a babyface, it sets the scene because Liv Morgan and Dirty Dominant Mysterio and Raquel Rodriguez, they had screwed Rhea over so many times that when you do it once and twice and sometimes three times, at some point the fans, they go, you know what, whatever the babyface has to do to get this win, because they've already had to overcome this thing again, and they literally had to overcome it twice in this match, and it's because of a heel's antics. You know what, screw the heel, we just want the babyface to win. Like that's when in a guy's match, hit a low blow or use a championship. So if you look at it like that, just let them cheat, right? I think the fact of the matter is WWE is going to need to do a little bit of damage control when it comes to Becky Lynch fans because there was so much anticipation, there was so much expectation, and they did not get what they wanted. And all they wanted, right, was just to see a Becky Lynch appearance. It's Raw on Netflix. It's the biggest episode of Monday Night Raw since 2012, maybe 2023 for the Raw 30th anniversary show. We wanted that moment, and we got robbed of that moment. And when you get robbed of that moment, that changes things. I mean, look at Rhea, right? Fans got robbed of seeing her drop the Women's World Championship. By God, Rhea Ripley is one of their biggest stars, and by a long shot. So they got a little bit of damage control to do. I'm curious to see how they do the whole Becky Lynch return thing, but that's what we know.